Hi, everybody. Hi. Thank you. Someone said hi back. That's so nice. Y'all are so sociable. Yeah.
Yes.
Y'all thank Angela for setting all this up for us, this whole feast. Yeah. And for giving such a great message last week.
Thank
so
you.
awesome. This whole semester. Yay. So
Thank
proud
you.
of. So proud. Some people are cheering you on.
I know,
They're
I
giving you
love
a
it.
standing
I
O
love
for
it.
that.
Thank you.
What do you have for us before we get started?
Gosh, well, I can't believe it's already the last night. It's always
Yeah.
so bittersweet because it's such a great season, and we love being with you ladies. We love you guys so much. And I just want to say thank you to Tanya
Yeah,
for
you're
leading
welcome.
us. I know how much time and heart you put into this. Can we give her
Yeah.
a round of applause?
Thank
like
you.
so much time.
Thank you.
Yes. And this whole entire women's ministry is definitely a team effort. Our leaders do amazing at their tables. We just hear such valuable feedback from the ladies there, and just how well you love and care for them, and that could not make us more proud and happier.
Yep.
And we have the most amazing volunteers, guys. There are volunteers that are behind the scenes that you never see way before we even begin our group. They are here. They're help assembling binders. They're putting things together. We have a team that comes in on Tuesdays and they help decorate the table. I mean, just you name it. We have our media team. There's Barb and Dorothy, Kent, Brad, Ethan, Joseph. I mean, the list goes
Marianne,
on.
yeah.
So amazing. So if you're like, now is the time, I want to be part of the volunteer team, our women's ministry. The card on top of all your notes, will you please fill that out? Table leaders, if you want to be a leader next spring, and co-leaders, please fill this out as well. That will be helpful for me. But go ahead and fill that out, put your name on it, where you would like to serve. And then also, on top of your notes, this is for everybody. We have a survey. We have some questions on there that we would just love to get your feedback. You do not have to put your name on this one. We just want to hear your thoughts, your opinions, your awesome comments, your feedback, anything. So that would be helpful. But leaders, we have one more for you. So much to do.
Yeah.
We have a leader
So little
survey.
time.
So that's under your survey for leaders, if you could do that. If you could spend the next couple minutes just kind of going through that, filling it out, and then you can leave them on your table face down in a pile in the middle, and we'll get those afterwards.
Yeah, so just take a few minutes and do that, and I'll be right back up. We're going to wrap up Joshua. All righty, I feel like I'm proctoring a test or something. I don't know. How's that going? Y'all can finish that. If you could make sure you finish it before you go. We so appreciate and value your feedback. So I know you've got a food situation going on around you, but if you could grab your notes, and you're going to need your map. I know it's going to be difficult, but you're going to want your map over there with the Mediterranean Sea on the left and all the red arrows. You're going to need that today. So kind of make a little nest before we get started. It'll make it easier as we go. So listen, you guys, I wanted to tell you I was in New Jersey and North Carolina this last week. So for my first leg of my trip, I was at a pastors conference. So it's mostly lead pastors and some executive pastors. And let me just say, there's very few women at this conference, so can be a little bit awkward anyway. And so I had a jacket on and a shirt because I don't want to be too dressy, but I don't want to dress down. And sometimes it's weird because you're with a lot of guys and stuff. And in New Jersey, I was in Hoboken. It's a walking community. And so I'm walking about 1.5 miles to this conference site where this church was. And so totally showed that I was a suburban girl and not a city girl. So I am with a group of people, and we're standing on the corner waiting for the hand to say that you can cross. And a city bus comes by, you know where this is going. And it had rained the night before, and it hit this ginormous puddle. And I didn't even think, back it up, Tanya, back it up. And I kid you not, it was like a wave. A full-on, like the whole wave. Like I'm telling you, my little jacket, my little shirt, my hair is wet. Like it's like plastered down. And plus it's disgusting New York street water. Not that it's any different from our street water. But anyway, it's all over me. And I'm like, shoot a monkey, my best efforts. This is not going well for me. So that was one thing that happened on my trip. It really was an amazing thing. And I learned so many things. And then I went from there to North Carolina, where my son had this little person. Oh, but it wasn't really him. It was my daughter-in-law who pushed that baby out. And she came out so fast, she was almost like a C-section baby. She had this little tiny bowling ball head, like this little round head. Anyway, I think is there another picture of her? I had two. Ah, look at her little face. I love that stage because you know how when they sleep, they wad up into this tiny little ball? You know, it's as if they're still inside. Anyway, super sweet. Everybody's doing great. So thank you for allowing me a week away to do those two things. And I know Angela did such a great job. And, you know, didn't she? Yeah. So here's the thing. I think one of the things I hope it was your takeaway from Angela's message is don't stop on 6. Because maybe it's that 7th lap where the walls fall down, right? That you keep marching, y'all. We got to keep marching because we don't know when God's going to come in and do the thing. And I hope you were encouraged to keep marching, and maybe you were able to encourage someone else to keep marching. And I'm in your notes because there's a really great verse in the book of Hebrews in the New Testament that I think speaks to this. It's in chapter 10, verses 35 and 36. It says this: "Don't throw away your confidence, Tanya, which has a great reward. For you have need of" what? What's the word? Endurance, right? That really means, in the Greek, it means to stay in it. You really need to stay in it so that when you've done the will of God, which is what the Israelites did, you can receive what was promised. Isn't that a great verse? You should mark that and put it somewhere. So I want to conclude our study by going all the way back to our friend Rahab the prostitute. She still has her nickname, but she came from one of the most evil cultures in the world. She made this bold and really risky decision to hide the spies and then to declare her faith in the God of Israel. Because thousands of years later, so fast forward in time, in the New Testament, that should be T-H-E-R-E, but there's a section also in the book of Hebrews. It's known as, instead of the Hall of Fame, it's known as the Hall of Faith. And in it, and you can look at it later, but in it, people like Abraham and Sarah and Moses and David, who lived in the Old Testament times, they're singled out. They're identified as being champions of the faith. And the list includes people that we would probably all expect to be in there. For example, it talks about how by faith Noah built a big boat. Abraham obeyed God. Sarah believed she could conceive when she was super old. Moses led the people out of Egypt. But when you get down to the list, to verse 30, you read this. This is super cool, verses 30 and 31. By faith, the walls of Jericho fell down after they'd been encircled for 7 days. Don't stop on 6. And by faith, Rahab the harlot, bummer, she carried her nickname into the New Testament, did not perish along with those who were disobedient after she'd welcomed the spies in peace. Now, of all of the people, and there's a whole ton of them and ones we don't even know existed, of all the people God could have chosen to highlight and include in this hall of faith, he picked Rahab to stand alongside Abraham and Moses. And then it gets even better. So after the conquest, Rahab, she settled among the Jews. She became part of the Hebrew faith, part of the culture. And the Bible tells us, and stay with me here, it's going to get a little complicated, but it tells us that she married a man named, and you say it's Salmon, not Salmon, but Rahab and Salmon, they had a son named, there should be a D there, named Boaz. And some of you may remember that this was the man who Ruth married. And then if you look in the book of Matthew where all these genealogies are, we read the rest of her incredible genealogy. So I want to pick it up with where it starts with Salmon. So it's Matthew 1, 5, and 6. So Salmon was the father of Boaz by Rahab. Boaz was the father of Obed by Ruth. Obed the father of Jesse. And Jesse was the father of who? Whoa, so now Rahab is in the lineage of King David. And then if you keep on reading and follow all these names in the genealogy, do it when you get home today, down to verse 16, you read this. And Jacob was the father of Joseph. You know where this is going, the husband of, say it, Mary, by whom who? Jesus was born, who's called the Messiah. So how incredible, you guys, is this? Rahab, the Canaanite prostitute from Jericho, is included in the lineage of Jesus. So we just have to pause and think about that for a minute. Because God is he's not a respecter of persons like we are. You know, we look and we measure up and we compare and we judge if someone is in or not, and he is clearly not like us. And can you see the other incredible picture here? We're all the way back again, you guys, to that little red cord of hope. Because little did Rahab know that when she took that step, That step of faith. And she hung that red cord in the window, that her faith was going to be part of the fulfillment of the picture of what she hung. Because now she was grafted as a non-Jewish Canaanite into the lineage of Christ, where the red blood would be shed and bring hope to the lost world. I mean, this is amazing. This is foreshadowing in the Old Testament at its finest. So again, our past story doesn't have to determine our future. And one step of faith can radically impact the entire course of our life. So I want to finish with Joshua. At the end of the book, it says that Joshua, he got pretty old there. He's 110 years old. He's fading. And just like we would have, he had some really important things to say before he died. So we're going to pick it up in Joshua 23, verses 2 to 11. Ready? Okay. Joshua called for all of Israel, for the elders and their heads and their judges and their officers, and he said to them, I'm clearly old, advanced in years, and you have seen all that the Lord your God has done to all these nations because of you, for the Lord your God is he who has been fighting for you. Underline that. See, I've apportioned to you these nations which remain as an inheritance for your tribes, with all the nations which I've cut off from the Jordan even to the great sea toward the setting of the sun. The Lord your God, he will thrust them out from before you and drive them out before you. You will possess their land just as the Lord your God promised you. Be very firm then. It's interesting it says very firm, but underline that. Be very firm then to keep and do what? All the things, all that's written in the book of the law of Moses, so that you may not turn from it to the right or to the left. Remember, he's repeating himself here. So that you will not associate with these nations, the ones that remain among you, or mention the name of their gods, or make anyone swear by them, or serve them, or bow down to them. But you are to, and I want you to underline this, cling, circle that word cling, underline this phrase, cling to the Lord your God as you've done to this day. For the Lord has driven out great and strong nations from before you. And as for you, no man has stood before you to this day. Underline this. One of your men, just one of your men, puts to flight 1,000 men. For the Lord your God is he who fights for you, just as he promised you. I love the redundancy here. So take diligent heed to yourselves to do what? Love the Lord your God. So there's so many things here, but I want to point out just a couple of them. The first is that back in verse 7, Joshua tells the people to cling, or in the Old Testament, that word is often translated to cleave, which we don't usually use that word very often, to the Lord. So what do you think of when you hear the word cling? What do you think of? The picture in the Old Testament would be almost a modern day picture of to grip so tightly, like you're maybe on a roller coaster and you're holding on for dear life. Or it's a picture of taking two pieces of paper and gluing them together. They're like cleaving together. I didn't grow up in a real huggy family. My family was kind of like the hug, that kind of hug. And there's all different kinds of hugs, right? There's the side hug, there's the pat, the pat. I'm kind of a patter, the patter hug. And I'll never forget, I had this friend, I still have this friend, named Bria. And Bria, y'all, that woman, like, get ready. When you see her coming, you like brace yourself, because this hug is coming that's like, this hug, it's like so tight, like the breathing now. And it's a lingering hug. Like, she's not just hugging you like tightly for a minute. It's like, okay, now it's getting awkward. Like, how long is it going to go on? And from a non-hugging family, I'm like, release. Soon she's going to, like, I don't know. It's one of those. But the idea of clinging here is that kind of tight hug. And I love that picture that Joshua painted of that being our relationship with God. So I want you to, we're going to do something a little different. Close your eyes for a minute and get a visual of you clinging to God, what that looks like. And I want you to reverse it and picture him clinging to you. Because that's the picture that Joshua is painting, that first and foremost, we're to cling to God. You can open your eyes now. Now, the second thing I want you to see here is how we're able to do that, like kind of the story behind the story on that. And it's in verses 9 to 11. And it says this: "For the Lord has driven out again great and strong nations from before you. And as for you, no man has stood before you to this day. One, again, underline it, one of your men puts to flight 1,000. For the Lord your God is he who fights for you, just as he promised you. So take diligent heed yourselves to love the Lord your God." So one of the reasons we can trust, because there's a releasing when you cling, isn't it? There's like a whoa coming under that clinging. We can cling to the Lord because he's our champion who goes before us. And the picture Joshua paints of this is a single Hebrew soldier. So see him in all his gear. He's got his sword drawn, and he's chasing after an entire battalion of enemies there. You know, one enemy outnumbered 1,000 to 1. And I brought Kent's sword in today, and it's super heavy, you guys. And the swords were really, really heavy. But my visual of this for me is me just running with my sword, just chasing after these enemies. And my enemies, maybe it's discouragement, maybe it's fear, maybe it's some kind of cynicism. Whatever my enemy is, it's me against 1,000. And that's the picture that he's painting. But at the same time, while I'm chasing, I'm clinging to the Lord and he's clinging to me. I love how he painted this picture, and I can't even put this in this thing. So I'm just going to set it right here and not trip over it later. But I'm back in your notes. So we have this beautiful mingling here of both clinging and fighting, something that's soft and strong, but aggressive and fighting at the same time. And here's what's so awesome. At this point, you guys, they have fought and defeated, and each of the kings is listed in the book of Joshua, 31 ever-loving kings and their territories. In fact, if you look at Joshua chapter 12, it lists them. And it's kind of like the way it's listed when you go back and look at it. It's almost like King la la la, check. King Bill, check. And there's a check after each one. So it makes me go back and think about, what if we created our own checklist, you know, at the end of our lives to read back over. Fought against fear, but now I'm walking in faith. Check. Was pulled toward gossip, but chose to remain silent. Check. Fought with addiction, but got help and sober. Check. Struggled with jealousy, but I've embraced contentment. Check. Wrestled with anxiety and worry, but now embracing peace. Check. Struggled with forgiving her, but I've let it go. Check. Or maybe it's like their defeated king list. So the king of shame, check. The king of criticism, check. The king of impatience, check. And I love that. And they did that 31 times, just so it's really clear. All those things are in check, taken care of. In the book of Joshua, it's shown us that none of these things are impossible with the God who fights with us and for us. So grab your map. And if you look at that red line that goes around, these are all the places that they traveled to do that, to defeat all those kings and take the rest of the land. And it's interesting, if you look at the map, of all the places that Joshua could have chosen to say his last words, it's there between, if you find Gilgal kind of in the center there, remember that? And then you find Bethel over there on the side. If you draw a little circle right there, there's a place called Shechem, and you can write that in there. It's in your notes, Shechem. And it's kind of back full circle where it all started. Shechem is also the place where Jesus met the woman at the well, which is just an interesting little tidbit there. But this is full circle as to what it looks like to finish well and leave a legacy of faith. And here's what he said in Joshua 24, verses 14 to 15. He says, now fear, and he's right there in Shechem, in that valley. Now fear the Lord and serve him with all faithfulness. Throw away the gods your ancestors worshiped beyond the Euphrates River and in Egypt, and serve the Lord. But if serving the Lord seems undesirable to you, then choose for yourselves this day whom you'll serve, whether the gods of your ancestors served beyond the Euphrates or the gods of the Amorites in whose land you're living. But, and this is one of those really big bucks, circle it. As for me and my household, you know what? We're gonna serve the Lord. I love that modeling. I love that picture. And that's why it's on your card. If you haven't passed your cards out, that's the verse on your card this week. So whether you're single or married or with or without children, I mean, this is the choice that we make, that you make minute by minute, day by day. Because wherever you're living at any given moment, that is in fact your house. And that's your people. So your body becomes your house. You know, the Bible calls our bodies a temple. Your mind is your house. Every nook and cranny of your mind, so much of it takes place. Where you work, whether it's in an office or at home or both, this is your house. Where you play, where you recreate, that is your house. And not only do we live in these places, each of us chooses every single day who we're going to serve there as well. And I get it, you know, none of us are going to ever live in perfect homes until heaven. But whatever homes we reside in right now, we have choices. Verse 25. On that day, Joshua made a covenant for the people. And there at Shechem, in that valley, he reaffirmed for them the decrees and the laws. And Joshua recorded these things in the book of the law of God. And then he took, and of course he took a stone, because it's a big, make the stones go. But he took a large stone, he set it up there under the oak near the holy place of the Lord. And he said, see, this stone will be a witness against us. It's heard all the words the Lord has said to us. It will be a witness against you if you're untrue to your God. And then Joshua dismissed the people, each to his own inheritance. And after these things, Joshua, son of Nun, the servant of the Lord, died at the age of 110. And they buried him in the land of his inheritance at Timnath-Serah in the hill of country of Ephraim, north of Mount Gosh. Wow. I don't even know why that happened. So what an amazing life. What an incredible life. You know, and as we go into the holidays, I really want us to pause and take just a minute and consider who we're serving at any given minute. I'm not going to move as everything gets busier. And I want us to I don't know y'all. Okay. And I want us to visually take a step towards clinging to the Lord. Really holding on to him as we go into the holidays with whatever challenge it is that we're facing. And I want us to keep this picture in our mind's eye of one, even if you have to see me in my ridiculous one person chasing with my big sword, of one chasing 1,000, that we don't fight alone. Because we also have, not only God with us, we have this invisible host of heaven fighting with us all around it, and they have their swords drawn as well. And I honestly believe it's going to make a huge difference in our perspective as we get into the holidays. And I think it's what will hold us together until we come back together after the first of the year. So I'm going to be praying for you. I ask you to be praying for me as we enter the holidays, and that this will be one where we could look back and say, wow, during the Christmas of 2025, that was a Christmas where I can really see myself clinging to the Lord. Do you love that picture? I love that picture. Let's pray together. God, thank you so very much that you included this in your word, that you chose to take this book and put it right smack dab where we would get a visual of what it looks like to walk with you, what it looks like to cling to you, what it looks like to have you as our champion, fighting for us, never leaving us. And I know that each and every single one of us in this room right now, there's some kind of battle. But you've taught us well. We're not stopping on 6. We're going to keep marching. And we're going to hold tight to you along the way, even with our swords drawn. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, you have a lot of fun things to talk about. All righty. I feel like we're proctoring a test in here or something. So my hope is that we don't put you into a total food coma tonight, but we're going to get started. Hey, listen, I'm going to tell you, last week I was out. I went to a pastor's conference, and it was really amazing. It was super funny. I was in a place called Hoboken, New Jersey. Has anybody ever been there? There was a gal in this morning who actually moved here from Hoboken, New Jersey, and she went to the church where I was. So I was at this pastor's conference, and I have to tell you, there aren't that many females there, so I don't know if you've ever been to one of those events when you're one of the few females there and you're trying to figure out what to wear and all the things that go with it. And Hoboken is a walking community like how New York is, so you're walking about a mile to get there. And so being a suburban girl, I wasn't thinking too much about how to situate myself on the different street corners. So I was waiting at a corner. I was with about 3 other people who were also walking, and we're waiting for the little hand to say go. And it had rained the night before, and you know where this is going. This ginormous city bus comes barreling by and hits a puddle, and I kid you not, it's like I went through the water slide. Like it was all over my outfit, but not only like my hair was like plastered wet to my face, and New York City dirt water, street waters all over me. Like I could feel it go in my eyes. I'm like, oh my gosh, now I've got an eye infection. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, it was just in a moment of me being in the city. So that happened. And then I went from there, and my son had this little baby girl up here. Actually, my daughter-in-law did all the work, but he was there, and that's super fun for us. I have another picture just holding her. They're so sweet at that age. I know. You know how when they're sleeping, they wad up into that tight little ball? It's just the most amazing thing. Anyway, I was so glad to be able to do that, and I'm so glad that Angela was here to talk to you about what happened with the walls of Jericho. And I hope that one of your takeaways from that is this: don't ever stop. I'm speaking to myself here on 6. Don't stop on 6, because on 7 the walls might come down. It's true, right? And I hope it encouraged you to just, some of you who are marching through it right now, to keep on marching, because you don't know when that lap is going to be where all the walls come down. And I hope you were able to be encouraged yourself and maybe encourage someone else to keep on marching. So I love what it says, and I'm in your notes now, and you're going to want to grab your map tonight too. So if you want to take a second and grab that. And I know you're probably going to get it greasy and stuff from all the pasta, but it'll be fine. But I really love what it says in the book of Hebrews in the New Testament along those lines. It's in verses 35 and 36, and it says this: don't throw away your confidence, Tanya, which has a great reward, for you have need of endurance. In the Greek that this was written in, it means to stick to it, to stay in it. It even means to like stay in the pain. You have need of endurance so that when you've done the will of God, which is what Joshua did, you may receive what was promised, even if it involves some marching around, some laps around. So I want to finish up our study. I want us to go back to our friend Rahab the prostitute, who came from one of the most evil cultures in the world, and she made the bold and very risky decision to hide the spies and declare her faith in the God of Israel. Because thousands of years later in the New Testament, there's a section in the book of Hebrews again, and it's known not the Hall of Fame, but it's known as the Hall of Faith. And in it, there's people like Abraham and Sarah and Moses and David who lived in the Old Testament times, and they're each singled out as being champions of the faith. And the list includes people that we would probably all expect. For example, it talks about how by faith Noah built a very large boat. Abraham obeyed God. Sarah believed that she could conceive when she was very old. Moses led the people out of Egypt. But when you get down to verse 30 in this hall of faith, you read this in verses 30 and 31. And by faith, the walls of Jericho fell down after they'd been encircled for 7 days. And by faith, Rahab the harlot, which, bummer for her, she still has her nickname, in the New Testament. But Rahab the harlot did not perish along with those who were disobedient after she welcomed the spies in peace. Now, of all the people God could have chosen to highlight and include in this remarkable hall of faith, he picked Rahab to stand alongside Abraham and Moses. Isn't that awesome? And it gets even better. So after the conquest, Rahab, she settled among the Jews. She became part of the Hebrew faith and culture. And the Bible tells us that she married this man. It looks like salmon, but it's Salmon. She married this man named Salmon. And Rahab and Salmon had a son named Boaz. It's ringing a bell with you, right, some of you right now. And you may remember that this was the man who Ruth married. And then in the New Testament, in the book of Matthew, we read in this huge genealogy, we read her incredible genealogy. And I want to pick it up with Salmon. Are you ready? Matthew chapter 1, verses 5 and 6. Salmon was the father of Boaz by Rahab. Boaz was the father of Obed by Ruth. Obed, the father of Jesse. And Jesse was the father of who? Y'all, King David. This is amazing. And then if you keep on reading, you have to go home and do this, but if you keep on reading in Matthew and follow all the names of this genealogy, you get all the way down to verse 16 and you read this. And Jacob was the father of Joseph, the husband of who? Mary, by whom Jesus was born, who's called the Messiah. So how incredible is this? Rahab, the Canaanite prostitute from Jericho, she's included in the lineage of Jesus. I mean, just think about for a minute. And here's the thing about God. He is not a respecter of persons like we are. I mean, we look, we measure up, we compare, we judge if someone's in or not, but he is clearly not like us. And can you guys see the other incredible picture that's here? We're back full circle to that red cord of hope, because little did Rahab know that when she hung the red cord in the window, that her faith, her story was going to be part of the fulfillment of that very picture of what she hung there. Because now she is what we call grafted in as a non-Jewish Canaanite into the lineage of Christ, where what? Where red blood would be shed and bring hope to a lost world. I mean, this is amazing. This is foreshadowing in the Old Testament at its very finest. So again, our past story doesn't have to determine our future. And one single step of faith can radically impact the entire course of our life. Now, I want us to finish with Joshua. At the end of the book, it says Joshua, he was 110 years old. He's fading, and just like we would have, he had some very important things to say before he died. So we're going to pick it up in chapter 23, verse 2. Are we still awake? The pasta hasn't kicked in yet. Okay. So Joshua called for all Israel, for their elders and their heads and their judges and their officers, and he said to them, I'm old, clearly, advanced in years, and you've seen all that the Lord your God has done to all these nations because of you. For the Lord your God is he who's been fighting, underline this, the Lord your God is he who's been fighting for you. See, I've apportioned to you these nations which remain as an inheritance for your tribes, with all the nations which I've cut off, from the Jordan to the great sea, toward the setting of the sun. The Lord your God, he will thrust them out from before you. He'll drive them from before you. You will possess their land, just as the Lord your God promised you. Underline this. Be very firm then to keep and to do all that's written in the book of the law of Moses, so that you may not turn aside from it to the right hand or to the left, so you won't associate with these nations which remain among you, or mention the name of their false gods, or make anyone swear by them, or serve them, or bow down by them. And now I want you to start underlining. But you are to cling to the Lord your God. Circle the word cling there. But you're to cling to the Lord your God as you've done to this day. For the Lord has driven out great and strong nations from before you. And as for you, no one has stood before you this day. Underline again. One, just one, the implication here is just one single one of your men puts to flight 1,000. For the Lord your God, circle it again, is he who fights for you, just as he promised you. So take diligent heed to yourselves to love the Lord your God. So there's many things I'd love to point out here, but I'm going to go with just two. The first is in verse 7, where Joshua tells the people to cling to the Lord. Now, I don't know what you think of when you hear the word cling. In the Old Testament, often, I think about 32 times, it's also translated cleave. So it's this picture of almost like holding tightly when you're on a roller coaster. Do you do that? I'm not hands up. I'm hold on tight, right? That person. Or it's a picture, another picture would be of two pieces of paper glued together, like they're clinging so close together, they're inseparable. So I was raised in not a super huggy family. We were kind of like, and the pat. And there's all different kind of hugs you can give. You know, there's the side hug, there's this hug for those of us, those who are non-huggers. There's the pat hug. Well, I'll never forget, I had a friend named Bria. Well, she's still my friend. But anyway, I have this friend named Bria, and she's the quintessential hugger. Like, if you see Bria coming, you gotta like brace yourself, because you know it's coming. And when she gets you, she's like this. I mean, like I don't know, can I breathe? And she doesn't just do that for a second. Like, she's holding on, like, oh wow, so much holding on. Like, I wonder what it's like. Is this awkward? Like, what are people thinking? Like, this is just really, it's a moment here. And she has that moment with everyone. She is that person, but she's clearly a picture of what clinging looks like. But clinging, you guys, it's the picture that Joshua painted of us and what? Our relationship with God. Now, that's a picture, and we're going to take a moment here, so close your eyes. And I want you to get a visual. I want you to ask God right now, ask him to give you a picture of you clinging to him and him clinging to you. Ask him to show that to you. I hope, and you can open your eyes now, but I hope that's a little bit emotional for you. It certainly is for me. And the second thing I want you to see is why and what stands behind why we were able to do that. So let's keep on in verse 9, and this is what we've read. The Lord has driven out great and strong nations from before you, and as for you, no man has stood before you to this day. Underline it again. One of your men puts to flight 1,000. For the Lord your God is he who fights for you, just as he promised he would do. So take diligent heed, Tanya, to yourselves to love the Lord your God. So you and I, we can cling to the Lord because he's our champion who goes before us. And the picture Joshua paints of this is of this single Hebrew soldier with his sword drawn, chasing after this running away entire battalion of enemies. So our enemy outnumbered 1 to 1,000. That's an incredible picture. So I brought Kent's sword again, which is super heavy. So I have to hold it with two hands, and super big for me. But this really is the visual, guys. This is Tanya, one of me, chasing after 1,000 with those, and them running like scared spitless. Why? Because the Lord my God is fighting for me. And it's me chasing down whatever that enemy is. It doesn't have to be a human. It's me chasing down fear. It's me chasing down discouragement. It's me chasing down cynicism or gossip or whatever that thing is that's your enemy right now. And I really love that powerful picture of us chasing down our enemies, 1 to 1,000. So I want us to also see how that mingles, because it's a mingling of the clinging and it's a mingling of the fighting. So it's the holding on for dear life to the only one who can save us, but at the same time it's going at it and staying in it and marching again and fighting with the sword. And here's what's so awesome. I'm back in your notes. At this point, and we can read this in the book of Joshua. You can go back and read this. They have defeated, you guys, 31 kings. In fact, you can go and look in Joshua 12, and it actually lists the names of the kings right there. And at the end of each one, there's almost like a check mark. It's like King la la la, check. King this and that, check. And it goes through all 31 of them. So for me, in my context, it could sound like this. All right, fought against fear, that king, but now I'm walking in faith, check. I was pulled toward gossip, but I remained silent, check. I fought with addiction, but I got help and I got sober, check. I struggled with jealousy, but I embraced contentment, Check. I struggled with anxiety and worry, but now I'm embracing peace. Check. I struggled with forgiving her, but I let it go. Check. Or maybe it's your defeated king list. So it looks like this: the king of shame, check. The king of criticism, check. The king of impatience, check. And the book of Joshua has shown us that none of these things are impossible because we have this God who fights with us and for us, who we're clinging to. Now, look, grab your map, and if you see the red line on there, you can see where they traveled to do this and take over the rest of the land. This is where all these different kings and their little countries lived. And you tell me, look at the map and just guess, because it's not marked on there, of all of the places Joshua could have chosen around that route to say his last words, where do you think it was? It was in this place called the Valley of Shechem. It was all the way back to the beginning of where it started. So it's right there. You can draw a little circle on your map. It's between Gilgal and Bethel, right there. What's cool about this is where Jesus met the woman at the well. So amazing, right? But it's full circle. It's what it looks like to finish well and leave a legacy of faith. And here's what he said in verse 14 of chapter 24. Now fear the Lord and serve him with all faithfulness. Throw away the gods your ancestors worshiped beyond the Euphrates River in Egypt and serve the Lord. But if serving the Lord seems undesirable to you, well, then choose for yourselves this day whom you'll serve, whether the gods your ancestors served beyond the Euphrates or the God of the Amorites in whose land you are living. But, and this is one of the biggest buts in all of Scripture, but, underline it, as for me and for my household, we will serve the Lord. And we just had to put this on your card this week. I think it's one of the most beautiful scriptures that we have. So here's the thing. Whether you're single or you're married, with or without children, this is the choice that I make, that you make minute by minute and day by day, because you're living at any given moment is in fact your house with your people. Where you are is where you are in that. So your body is actually your house. The Bible calls our bodies a temple. Your mind is your house. Every nook and cranny of it. Where you work, whether it's in an office or at home or both, this is your house. Where you play, where you do your recreation, this is your house. And not only do we live in these places, but each of us chooses every day who we're going to serve there as well. And I get it. You know, none of us live in perfect homes, and we never will until heaven. But in whatever homes we reside in right now, every minute of every day, we have choices. Verse 25. On that day, Joshua made a covenant for the people, and there at Shechem, he reaffirmed for them all the decrees and laws, and Joshua recorded these things in the book of the law of God. And then, of course he did, he took a large stone, because he's all about the rocks and stones, and he set it up there under the oak near the holy place of the Lord. See, he said to all the people, this stone will be a witness against us. It's heard all the words the Lord has said to us. It'll be a witness against you if you're untrue to your God. And then Joshua dismissed the people, each to their own inheritance. And these things, Joshua, son of Nun, the servant of the Lord, died at the age of 110, and they buried him in the land of his inheritance at Timnath-Serah in the hill country of Ephraim, north of Mount Gosh. What an amazing life this guy had, yeah? And as we go into the holidays, and they're like right here upon us, I really want us to pause, you guys, and take a minute and consider who we're serving as it gets busier and busier. And I want us to visually take a step towards clinging to the Lord in whatever challenge you're facing right now, whatever that challenge is, to think about what it would look like to cling to God in the midst of that challenge. And then I also want us to keep the picture in our mind's eye of us, little old us, but not little old us, a one chasing whatever that enemy looks like for you right now, but not alone, with the whole host of heaven behind us, with their swords drawn as well. And I do really believe it's going to make a difference in how we live, how we go through the holidays, and all of the things until we come back next semester. So let me pray for us, and you have a lot to talk about in your groups. God, I'm just thinking about each of the women in this room right now, and whatever that challenge is coming into the holiday. Maybe it's one that you've been carrying for a while now. Maybe it's one you know is coming. And I thank you for the life of Joshua and the model it's been. I pray that each and every person here would keep marching. You'd give us the strength to do that. That we'd add to that the clinging to you. And that we'd add on top of that a drawn sword, knowing that you're fighting for us and with us, with all of your angels. And that would give us strength and courage and hope. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, y'all have fun with this discussion.
All right, ladies. Sounds like you had an awesome discussion tonight. If I could have your attention real quick. It has come to an end. So sad, I know, but it sounds like you guys had an amazing time tonight. And Tanya and I had a really awesome semester with you guys. We love you guys so much. And we have already been working on our spring session. So we are so excited to be back together again soon. So I have 2 save the dates for you guys. Are you ready? So January 28th is our Bingo and Bites. Yes, if you've ever been there, it's so much fun. It's a huge potluck out in the lobby, and all we do is play bingo and win awesome prizes. But seats are limited, so once that fills up, unfortunately, we have no more space per fire marshal. So when that link goes live, definitely sign up for that. Bring your friends, join together as your table. It's a really fun night, and we come here in the worship center. And then 2 weeks from that date, February 11th, we pick back up for our women's for our 7 weeks. So we're excited for that. Yes, I know, we're so excited. Cannot wait to be back together. So save those. We'll send out an email to all of you guys when the links are up, so that way you could register. And it's really helpful when you guys let us know that you're coming by signing up. That way we could prepare for all the things. So that is all I have. Grab a plate to go on the way out, and we will see you January 28th and then February 11th. Bye, guys.